Watch this. Most players get their serve toss wrong for one simple reason, and fixing it changes everything about your game. Hi everyone, I'm Xiao Han. Today we're working on how to generate power on the backhand against topspin. This is a crucial skill. Whether you're receiving a sidespin topspin serve or locked in a backhand rally, most exchanges start from the backhand side. So getting this right matters. Now when you attack a topspin ball with your backhand, do you punch it or do you rip it? A lot of players think ripping means exaggerating the motion, flicking the wrist hard, making the swing as big as possible to add power. But in a match, that loose wrist will betray you. The moment the spin changes or the ball lands in an awkward spot, your wrist wobbles and you miss. That's the first common mistake, too big. The second mistake is the opposite. Many players make the stroke too small. They touch the ball and immediately stop, no follow-through at all. So too big doesn't work, and too small doesn't work either. What's interesting is that every player seems to have their own unique version of the wrong technique. Most female players tend to keep the stroke too compact, not enough extension. Most male players go the other way and whip the wrist too freely. If you genuinely struggle with the backhand rip, pay close attention today. When you see my backhand in person, the ball comes off like a cannonball. The speed is explosive because the power is extremely concentrated. Let me explain why. The first key point is this. You can punch the ball and you can rip the ball, both are valid. I use both in matches against high-level players. But let's start with the punch mechanic, because it teaches you the foundation. Watch the demonstration closely now. As my partner feeds the ball, notice where I make contact, right at the top of the bounce, directly in front of my chest. My elbow doesn't drift sideways. It stays anchored as a pivot point. The forearm accelerates forward through a short, explosive arc. At the moment of contact, my wrist locks firm. There's no extra follow-through, waving out to the side. The racket stops shortly after impact, and that's where all the energy transfers into the ball. See how compact that looks? The entire stroke happens within maybe 12 inches of movement. My shoulders stay square to the table, my weight shifts slightly forward onto the balls of my feet, and my core stays engaged. Notice my racket angle right before contact. It's almost perpendicular to the table, just a few degrees closed to handle the incoming topspin. If I open the face too much, the ball flies long. If I close it too much, it dumps into the net. That slight closure lets me drive through the ball while keeping it on the table. Watch again, the adjustment is subtle, just a small tilt of the wrist. Now let me show you several rallies in a row so you can see the consistency of the motion. Each time my partner sends the ball, I reset to the same ready position, elbow in, forearm loaded, racket in front of my chest. The timing is the same every time. I catch the ball right at the peak of the bounce. Watch my feet. Small adjustments, staying balanced, keeping my center of gravity low. My knees are slightly bent, and my weight stays forward. That stable base is what allows the arm to fire quickly, without my whole body swaying. Also pay attention to my grip. I'm holding the racket with a relaxed hand, until just before contact. Then I squeeze briefly through the hit. That squeeze and release rhythm is critical. Let me repeat the stroke in slow motion so you can really see the sequence. First, the forearm draws back just slightly, not a big backswing, maybe 4 or 5 inches at most. Then the elbow stays fixed as the forearm punches forward. At the same time, my wrist firms up and drives the racket head through the ball. Contact happens out in front, never beside my body or behind it. After contact, the racket decelerates quickly. There's no long sweeping follow-through. That short, punchy finish is what keeps the ball low and fast over the net. Now watch my body. My hips and shoulders barely rotate on the punch. This isn't like a forehand loop where you unwind your whole torso. The backhand punch is almost entirely forearm and wrist, supported by a stable core. Here's a detail most coaches don't emphasize enough: the direction of your forearm's acceleration. On the backhand punch against topspin, you want to drive forward and slightly downward through the ball, not upward. The incoming ball already has topspin, so it wants to kick up off your racket. If you swing upward too, the ball sails long. By punching slightly forward and down, you use the incoming spin to your advantage. The ball grips the rubber, the topspin converts into speed, and the trajectory stays flat and penetrating. Watch my racket path here. It's almost horizontal, maybe angling down 5 degrees. That flat trajectory is what produces that cannonball effect I mentioned. Let me now show you what the rip looks like compared to the punch. The setup is almost identical: same elbow position, same ready stance, same contact point in front of the body. The difference is in how the wrist and forearm work together at contact. On the rip, instead of punching straight forward, I add a lateral brushing component. My wrist turns slightly outward as the forearm extends, so the racket sweeps across the ball from inside to outside. This adds side spin on top of the forward drive, which makes the ball curve and dip unpredictably. Watch the contact closely. See how the racket head moves across the face of the ball rather than straight through it. That sideways element is what separates a rip from a punch. But here's the critical point: the brushing motion is small and controlled. You don't need a big wrist flick, just enough lateral movement to catch the side of the ball clean. So let me recap what we covered. The most common backhand error against topspin is swinging upward and flicking the wrist too much. Instead, keep your elbow stable as your anchor point, punch forward and slightly downward through the ball, and let the incoming spin do the work for you. When you want to add variety, use that small lateral brush to turn the punch into a rip. Whether you're young or experienced, these corrections will transform your backhand. Start slow, feel the flat forward path, and drill it until it becomes automatic.